Good morning, everyone, except for those of you who are on the East Coast. Good afternoon. Um, I'll start this webinar with the same way I start all of them. We are always humbled and excited when there are people that are interested in hearing what we have to say. This is a really fun thing that we do at Acuity. We are a consulting group. We also own retail stores, and we like to share what we know, and we think that there's a void in the business that we're all in. Um, there's a lot of people that are trying to teach you how to sell more hearing aids. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people that are really trying to improve your patient care. There's nothing wrong with that. There are people that are really interested in helping you grow your business, and when you grow, it helps their business as well. I think that Acuity is unique in that we're really doing this because we think we have a really good formula. We have really good resources, and we think that we can help everybody who's on this call and everybody who watches this in the future. We really think that we can help you thrive and have fun, and we believe that thriving and have fun. It's important to understand that you need to be profitable to have a lot of fun and keep your promises to your patients and to your employees. So today we're going to talk about the perfect P&L. I've had many people say, what is the perfect P&L? What should I be spending on this? What should I be spending on that? And so today we got an expert. The expert is Cade Simpson. He's going to be going through the P&L for an hour, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. If you have to get off the call before he's finished, the good news is you'll be able to find this in perpetuity online. Cade, will you please tell us who you are? I don't even know what your title is at Acuity Hearing. Maybe you don't either, but tell us who you are, a little bit about your history, and there you go.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks, Steve. Can you hear me okay, Steve?
Yes, sir. Yes, I can.
Yeah, and I want to say thanks for everybody being here as well. This is maybe the third webinar that I've been a part of, and it is a lot of fun. It's fun sharing, it's fun thinking, and that's what we're here to do, help people thrive and have fun, which is literally our purpose statement. I mean, Steve's saying it, I'll just reiterating. It's literally a purpose statement of Acuity is to help business owners thrive and have fun, and we have fun doing it. Okay, who's Cade? I'm Cade, and we're not big title people at Acuity, but I, in essence, I'm kind of like the chief executive officer. I'm responsible for keeping us afloat and keeping things going. I hold really kind of dual roles. I am kind of chief officer of the Acuity Network, the services side. We have two entities. We have the services side where we're helping other businesses, and then we have our actual retail clinics that we own and operate. And I do hold position of being kind of chief officer of those, being the director of vision and execution in that world as well. It's a lot of fun what we're doing, having the clinics. I think that's part of I'd say it's a big part of our value proposition is that what we're talking about on these webinars or at any time we engage with someone, we're not making stuff up. We're literally sharing the tools that we use in our clinics, and when they work, we're saying, here's something that works. Have at it. We'd love to help you. So this today being a topic about P&L management, financial management, same thing. It's literally the things that we do in our clinics to keep them financially healthy. I'm going to actually be showing our retail clinic P&L at the end. So hang in there so you can see that. We're going to share open book. Where do I come from, Steve? I grew up in the industry in a way. I have uncles that have been in the industry a long, long time. I called him Papa Joe Drosh. We weren't blood related, but he's the father-in-law of my uncle, who I am related to, and I called him Papa Joe, and he was a kind of bell-toned kingpin in the 70s and 80s, and then the family switched to Audibel when that was a thing, and in the early 2000s. And then I began working for my other uncle, John, in 2007. I was a clinician for a number of years and then joined New Sound Hearing, and that's, of course, Randy's clinic group. And it's kind of when I get to that point in the story, I kind of say the rest is history. Randy really took me under his wing and gave me opportunity to lead teams. And before long, I was leading all of the clinics in New Sound. And then when we merged into Starkey's All-American Hearing Centers clinics, I was the national director of all of those clinics. And so I've had a fortunate career, and the access that I've had and the perspective that it's given me and what I've learned, I'd say it's been unique in that a lot of people don't get to have access to that many clinics and so forth. So we've learned along the way. I like to say that I've got a PhD in Randy Schomburn hearing clinic operations and strategy. So again, it's just like he shared, and imparted what he knew into me and his team. That's what Acuity's doing, is sharing again back to the audiology, hearing aid, better hearing community. So that's my story in a quick version, Steve. How's that sound?
Pretty good story. I think, in my history in the business, I remember somebody saying once upon a time that, we're not in a dollars business. People hear how much hearing aids cost on the wholesale level, and then they see how much we mark them up to, and they think, oh my goodness, those margins are crazy. And at the end of the day, these margins aren't crazy. We are in a pennies business. And it's important to look at the P&L and Cade, your experience is fantastic, because what works in one clinic works in 101 clinics. Because guess what a P&L is? It's simple math, and math don't lie. You can't fudge your way past a math problem. Um, there are 100 pennies in a dollar. There are not 101. There are not 102. Bill Austin would always say, he never looked at things like this, but what he would do is he would say, I always try to spend less money than I bring in. That's a really good way to run a business. Well, there are entrepreneurs like that can kind of run things that way intuitively. And then there's the rest of the world, where we need to be able to look at formulas and check to see where we are. Cade, why don't you walk us through why we're studying P&Ls, how often we're studying P&Ls, who we're showing them to, and really why this discussion that we're having today. I remember when I asked you, you're like, I love this. Thank you. Let's do this. Why is it such a passion of yours? And it's not because you're chasing money. I know that about you.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of a taboo subject, I think. I believe that us humans, people, business owners, are afraid of being profitable. We almost feel guilty about it. And therefore we might make excuses or justifications in our own mind of why we shouldn't be profitable, or why we're making the decisions that we're making that are preventing us from being profitable. We over justify it. I believe that we feel it's taboo, and for some reason that holds us back. Right now is a season going on in the let's say big business world, publicly traded business world, where companies are coming out with their earnings and whatnot from Q2 and so forth. And as companies release their earnings and their revenues and things like that, their stock prices go up or they go down. Why? Because I'm going to say educated, smart, unemotional investors are saying, well, if you're healthy and profitable, I want more. I want more of your company. That's good. you're stewarding my money. I gave you money to hoping you'd go grow, and you did go grow, or you didn't go grow. So it makes the stock price go down. People pull out of it. And I just think that in small business, that is missed, and it's missed in an unhealthy way. And it in it doesn't deserve that, though. Our businesses deserve us to steward them the best that we possibly can. And yeah, it's not about the money per se. It's about the mission. This is a lesson, Randy lesson early on that really stuck with me when in his clinics, in the New Sound clinics, really started to learn about and study P&Ls. And so the principle, the lesson is no margin, no mission. No margin, no mission. Well, what does that mean? Well, I bet that most people on this call right now and those that'll watch it later are pretty close to being somewhere around wanting to provide best patient care to their customers. So we're all on this better hearing journey. We're not trying to sell cheap things on some website like Amazon just to have a bunch of cheap transactions, not caring about the end user. The end user experience is what we actually care about. Okay, that's the mission. That's what I'm trying to express here, is that that's the mission. Well, if you don't have margin, you don't have profitability, your mission is going to suffer. And we're not literally a charity, but even charity has to fundraise. It has to have margin in order to execute what they want to execute, whatever the charity might be or the foundation might be. It's all economics. And so in our mission, in our better hearing mission, in our retail clinics, we have to have margin too. That'd be the leading, let's say, the leading principle. The second would be, from back to that kind of investor standpoint, if you're a business owner and you're not getting a return from your business, that's bad investment. You've got a 401k, maybe you've got a financial manager or planner, and they're trying to set your 401k up and all your stock portfolio or whatever it might be to get you an annual return. If they're not getting a certain return, you're likely disappointed with them. Well, why would we not be similarly scrutinous of our own business, which is likely where we have the most investment? It's the biggest stock portfolio that you have. It deserves the same level of scrutiny on its performance, so that it is a good financial position for yourself, your family. That's what comes to mind, Steve.
I love that. And we set it at 20 cents. We want to see 20 cents on a dollar. And I'll say to everybody that watches this or is watching this, if you're not paying yourself as an owner, if you're just paying yourself as a clinician, you really don't own a business. You own a job.
Yeah.
And the E-Myth says, and you might be working for a lunatic. And so what we want to do is we want to build something that is scalable, so that wherever you are in your stage of business, that if you rise above in your business the level of patient care, and I don't mean rising above, I mean getting above your business instead of down in the revenue generation, that's where it gets scalable, because you can only see so many patients. And if you've got, clinicians, and you're selling, you're creating enough revenue because you have to, because you're overpaying them. You may not ever figure that out until you start looking at the P&L. And we like to say we need 20 cents left over out of every dollar, because the owner deserves half of that, and the business deserves the other half of that. We make calculated decisions to operate at less than 20% for a period of time, because we're reinvesting those resources. But you actually have to generate excess resources above the 80% threshold and take from that 20% in order to reinvest in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that those are really good points, and so good that Kate, I'd like for you to go ahead and take over, and let's start looking at some P&Ls and what kind of levers we push and pull. And kind of while you're thinking about that, I want to maybe put this bug in your ear to talk about who do you share the P&Ls with, and how often are you looking at your P&L? And then I'll tell everybody listening, we're going to talk about a lot about levers that we push and pull on these P&Ls. And it's hard to do this in a short period of time without having a full other class on our intranet site. Everything that we say, here's some ideas that you could do. We have resources to walk through that process. And there's very few things that are an easy fix when you're dealing with human beings. Um, I can promise you this. We're in a hurry to fix a broken P&L, but we're not in a hurry to just stick square pegs into round holes. We actually have well thought out uh, um, proprietary interconnected resources to help you solve whatever riddle you come up with after studying your P&L. Go for it, Cade.
You see my screen?
I can.
All right. This is our clinic optimization tool. People that have been to our Thrive events or on these podcasts before, webinars before, I believe I shared it on a previous one. Just a little plug for it. We're going to look at several things with sheets within this, but here's a tool that would be applicable that we're not going to look at today, but just to show this is something we could provide to anyone that's interested. You can actually plug in the actual costs of your business. Like these are all the G&A kind of fees that most businesses would have. You can put in your personnel fees. Then you plug in what you're spending on marketing and your cost of goods. And this sheet will tell you how much revenue you need to generate in order to achieve 0 profit, 10% profit, or 20% profit. So anyway, it's a handy little tool there. Let's talk about the perfect P&L. Okay. For starters, let me give us a frame of reference. We are going to talk about revenue, and we will talk about only 2 categories of revenue. One would be hearing aids revenue or hearing aid treatment revenue. The other category is other revenue. This would encompass anything like service plans, warranties, accessories, anything like that. Okay. Cost of goods. In our cost categories, we're going to have 4. Cost of goods is the first, personnel, marketing, and G&A. All right. When we talk about personnel, this is going to be clinic operating personnel. So it would be your clinicians, your PCCs, any kind of techs or assistants or trainees that are part of the clinic team, as well as direct managers of the clinic team. If on your staff you have someone like a bookkeeper, that would actually be a G&A cost. That's even though it's a person, it's a G&A cost that is supporting the selling of creating the revenue, which is the clinicians, PCCs, the clinic teams. Those are our machines that are generating our revenue. Okay, the perfect P&L. We're going to build it on that principle of the 100 pennies in a dollar. That, just like our revenue, it's kind of a translation of percentages. Whatever your revenue is, that's 100% of your revenue. And so there's 100 pennies in a dollar. That's going to be 100 or $100, if you will, or 100 pennies is going to be our starting revenue. I'm not going to put anything in the other revenue right now. We're just going to pretend our total revenue all in. It doesn't matter if it's hearing aids revenue or other revenue. Right now, we're just going to start with 100. Okay, the perfect P&L is going to be a healthy, balanced diet of these 4 cost categories. Your first one is cost of goods. If you want to end up with 20% net operating income, that's what we're trying to do down here on row 18. We're trying to get this to where it says 20% and not lower. if you want your cost of goods, or if you want 20% at the end, you need your cost of goods to be 27% or less. Okay, 27% or less. I'm going to go into how you get to these, how we got to these kind of numbers in just a second. The second cost category, personnel. If you want your P&L, we're down to 73% on row 18. All right. We don't need it to go lower than 20. You need your personnel costs to be 25%. This would be, again, your clinic staffing plus direct managers, and it would include all people costs, not just their base and salaries, but benefits, health insurance, payroll taxes, everything like that, all in would be 25%. If you were down to 48% on our net income, all right, marketing, we need it to be 11%. G&A, we need it to be 17%. This would be everything else, your rents, your utilities, lawyer fees, bank fees, finance fees, you name it, would go in the G&A.
Webinar over. Everybody go do that.
Yeah, go do that. So let me give a little context as to why how we get to each of those cost categories. Well, one, remember, it doesn't matter what business you're in. There's only 100 pennies in a dollar. And in our business, we're saying we want to get to 20%. That's a good, healthy percentage. I want to reiterate what Steve was saying. Why 20%? Well, when you're having 20% net income, this is operating income, by the way. This is operating income, so it's the pure design of your business. This is not tax. So that's my point, is when you have 20% profit, well, basically a third or more is taken out right away from taxes, so it gets cut down. So now you're left with 13%, and between that 13%, you're reinvesting in the business, or you're having a rainy day fund. Because everything else, remember, back up here in these costs, these are just to operate in order to achieve this revenue. And so you have to have something left over as a rainy day fund. I'm saying it that strongly. You have to have something left over to build a rainy day fund as well as an investment fund for the business. That's the margin mission principle. And then as a business owner, you own stock in the business. You're an investor in the business, just like in your 401k or anything else. And you need it to produce a return so that it is a healthy investment. Otherwise, Steve said it great, all you've done is bought yourself a job. Well, you could go actually just get a job making the same or more probably, and not have the stresses of being an owner. So you need to have 20% profit margins. The cost of goods, the reason the cost of goods needs to be 27% is because notice visually that the other three costs are separate from the cost of goods. In the world of business, business is a science. And in the laws of business and the rules of business, it's understood or looked at that really gross margin is your real revenue. It's your real revenue. It's the revenue that everything else is paid for from. So you need your cost of goods to be healthy so that you have healthy gross margins so that you can pay the rest of the costs.
You're just holding manufacturer money in escrow. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
You got $1 million business, you really only have a $750,000 business, because 250 that belongs to the manufacturer.
That's right. The personnel, I'm not going to go through this. This could be an hour lesson by itself, but on the personnel cost, 25%, we're allocating 15% for clinicians, 5% for PCCs, 5% for managers. Remember, that's all in. That's base salary, payroll taxes, and benefits. Now, I was saying earlier that taxes aren't part of this, and what I meant by that is income taxes to the business owner, or C Corp taxes, things like that to the business owner, are not part of these costs, but payroll taxes are. And anyway, if you just kind of do the back math on, if you generate a business that's, or if you want to go hire a clinician, well, there is kind of a market cost out there. You're not going to get one to come work for you that's $20,000 a year. That's not going to happen. You're going to be, somewhere in the 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, it's not cheap. There is kind of a market value. And once you get your clinician, your PCC, you're not going to be able to hire anybody if you don't pay them $16 an hour or $17 an hour. So it's that kind of thing that gets to the 25%. Marketing is similar. It just is 53 cents a piece of mail to go send direct mail. It just is. You can't change Facebook's fees. They are what they are. You can choose how much you spend on them, which we'll get to later, but whatever the fees are is what they are. What we have to do is a good job of staying in line and being effective with our marketing so that it remains in a healthy ratio. G&A, this would be controlling the small costs. Rent is going to be your biggest G&A. I've seen lots of people who have healthy businesses as far as the way they pay people or their marketing, even their cost of goods, and yet they have a clinic that's 3 times too big for what they actually need. And they have no plans of growing into it, and therefore they're paying more on the rent. And you might say, well, it's only $1,500 more, or it's only $2,000 more a month. Well, that ends up being $24,000 or more, depending on the scenario. That's a lot, and that's a lot of money, especially when you multiply it per clinic. If you have multiple clinics, we'll tend to make the same decisions over and over again, and you end up in a bad place. So there's your perfect P&L: 27% cost of goods, 25% personnel, 11% marketing, 17% G&A, and we've got 20% net operating income. Do you have any questions on that, Steve?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I just love this, and I'll go back to what we were talking about earlier. This is just math. Here's the deal. You can have 29% cost of goods as long as you have 9% marketing. You can get to more. You might say, well, I have to pay this much for personnel. You can absolutely pay your personnel more, but you've got to go rob it from somewhere else. It is simple math. If you want to get to 20% profitability, and our argument is that is a responsible number. It shouldn't be aspirational. That's what a business should do. If you look at anywhere in the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones, these businesses, they don't build models to operate at a loss. Now they're out there, trying to make money. It's important to make money too, but it comes from a place, at least from our perspective, of keeping your promises to your patients and to your employees and creating a life for you to where you're not a slave to your business. So
Yeah.
simple math. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, Steve, if you were watching, I was clicking around, just changing some of the numbers to your point to ultimately still come out to 20%. And I'm going to get into some of that in our different scenarios that we're going to move into. But something that I don't know if we said it earlier. I want to remind us, though, if you're in the audience watching and you would like to ask a question, by all means, please type it in the message board. We do have the mics muted, so there's no verbalization or anything going on, but you can type in the message board, and then Steve or Sarah maybe watch the message board and let me know if there's a question as we go along the way, and then if there's any time at the end, we might have time for more questions. I'm gonna keep going, okay, Steve?
Yes.
So what I've got is 4 scenarios that I want to go through that are just representations of different things that I've seen or situations that someone might be in as a business owner. The way that these P&Ls are structured is kind of looking at one clinic. So, but the principles apply regardless of the size, scope of your business. So here's scenario 1. Our scenario is high revenue and high payroll. And yet we're only at 15.6% net operating income. Now, you might look at that and immediately go, well, 15%, that's enough. I want you to stay with us here on it's not enough. It's not 20%. What's the difference between 15% and 20%? Let's see. I'm going to change one of these numbers and see if I can get it to be 20%. Okay. So I just changed personnel. I fixed our high payroll problem, got it right down to 25%, and all of a sudden we're at 20% in operating income. If you saw, and that's 200,000. The number that was in there before was 240,000. Well, let's think about that 40,000, or that, remember that early justification that we might have and say, well, 15 is that's good enough. And in this scenario with this one clinic, it's a difference of $40,000. If I had a tip for you, if I said, forget we were even in this webinar, and I said to you, hey, I got a tip guaranteed to make you $40,000. Would you not perk up? Would you not be interested? Or what if it was the opposite? This is, I'll actually, a little side story. Randy, I was talking to him last week, and we were talking about this sort of P&L finances kind of thing and perspective. This is a little funny side story saying the perspective of humans is interesting. If you told somebody you had an opportunity to make $10 at 3:30 in the morning, people wouldn't get up at all for that. But if you told them that someone was going to come steal your $10 rake out of your shed at 3:30 at night, you'd be up all night setting traps and ready to catch the bandit. It's still $10. It's the same $10, and so just our perspective that way. So for whatever that's worth, the funny little story joke there. Whenever our cost categories are off, the business or that category is stealing $40,000 from us here. It's $40,000 that could go to help the mission, and that's a lot. And it's not oh, 15% is okay. No, it's not enough. And especially what if it was lower? What if it was at 10% or 8% or 3%? It's just not. We should be better stewards than that, justifying that it's okay. All right, I've got some information here that got us to this scenario. Here's the clinician's pay. Their pay is $70,000 base salary and a 10% commission on all revenue. The PCC's paid $19 an hour. The manager cost on this is healthy. It's full 5%. Let's say that's their all-in cost. So the manager fee gets checkbox, but the clinician and the PCC, those are kind of suspect. Now, I gave us a hint earlier and said what the clinician pay should be as part of the contribution or as an expense on the P&L in a healthy range. And I said 15%. Well, if the clinician's pay is $70,000 base and a 10% commission on all the revenue, and $800,000 is our revenue, how much did that clinician make in this year? So it's going to be 70,000 plus the 10%. 10% of 800,000 will be 80,000. That means that the clinician made 150,000. Now let's do some math real quick. 150,000 divided by 800,000, if you're doing the math with me, is 18.75%. So 18.75 is the revenue percentage. Here's the issue. Not only is it 3.75% above 15, remember I said 15 would be all in. Healthcare contribution, benefits, other 401k contributions, anything like that, as well as payroll taxes. So this person is actually closer to like 6% higher than what they need to be. Let that sink in. It's not just 3.75%. I could do the same thing with the PCC, but we're going to talk mostly about the clinician's pay. This is where most of the issues come up that I see. And again, all this is just example of, again, stewarding that particular cost category. Now, a clinician that makes 800,000 or brings in 800,000 revenue, that's good. That's a good clinic. That's a good, healthy clinic. You can see it's kind of reflected in that our marketing is working well and it's in a relatively healthy place. Our G&A is also nicely healthy. We've got the right rent and everything like that. We're just overpaying our clinic team, in particular our clinician. So remember, I said that clinician made 150,000. That's great. That's a great income. But what would we need it to be to get that into the healthy range? And I did that earlier. It was 200,000. And so that'd be saving 40,000. So think about that for a second. If a clinician in a clinic made 110,000, is that good? Well, that is good. That's well above the industry average. The industry average clinician full-time is still in the 80-ish range, plus or minus. So to make 110, regardless of the structure, their income is 110,000. And so to make 110,000 that's good. That's a good opportunity. If I bet if you put the advertisement out there that you've got 110,000 opportunity, you could get people to come to the job. Therefore, you're not pressured into having to pay someone 150,000 in order to do so. So here's a way that you might structure someone's pay. What if you stay at 70,000 as their base and you pay them 12% as a bonus or commission, but they have a threshold, and the threshold is 40,000 a month. Well, 70 and 10, 70 and 12, they both kind of look the same on paper. There is this threshold, and that's important to understand. I'm just saying that, bear with me, that it's not like we're way out in left field with a structure like this, but the fact that we have this threshold, that saves us. If we have a threshold monthly of 40,000, that would be annually 480,000. And so 480,000 out of the 800 leaves us with 320,000 that's eligible for bonus. And that would be 38,400. So our bonus ends up being 38,400 plus the 70,000. Well, I know I got math going all over the place here, but that's just for effect here. All right. So if this was our structure, now our clinicians made 108,400. And we're right there in line with having our perfect P&L on an $800,000 clinic. What do you think about that, Steve?
I think that is excellent work. There's a lot that I want to say in and out, and forgive me if I'm going to talk over a future point that you're going to make, but I just want to reiterate to everybody, because I see people online. I'm so excited with some of the people I see. I'm excited for everybody that's online with us, but I see, somebody that I know who's been incredibly successful in the Northeast. You know who you are. I see somebody from the Northwest. You know who you are. And you might be saying, well, that's fine. Clinicians in my market, I'm in Connecticut or wherever you might be, I've got to pay people 150,000. All we're saying is, okay, you can pay them 150,000, but you got to go get those percentages elsewhere. If you want a profitable business, this is not opinion. It's math.
It's
And
math. Yeah.
all it is math. And if you want to be able to sell your business and maximize your payout, get yourself a 20% net operating income P&L, and make it unnecessary for you to even work in the business. I have a good friend who he didn't darken his doorstep for a year in his business, and it grew at 10%. That's when you have a business. When it doesn't take all of your effort and energy to keep the stinking thing afloat. This is just, it is simple math. And my goodness, and we're actually doing the things we say. We're not this entity that says, here's our grand ideas. No, we're an entity that has our own P&Ls, and these have been our results. So
Yeah.
I'll save the rest for when it's
Yep.
appropriate to comment.
Let's go to scenario 2. This is a fun one. Scenario 2, high rev, high COGS. We have the same revenue, the 800,000. We've got good looking personnel. We got that clinician on the right pay structure. Our marketing's the same. Our G&A is the same, but man, our cost of goods is 37.5%, and we're down at 10.6% net profit. Again, you might look at that and go, well, that's good enough. No, you're leaving $85,000 on the table. Somebody, a bandit, is stealing $85,000 a year from you.
Taking your rake.
Taking your rake, a lot of rakes.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about cost of goods. Cost of goods is an important lever. Again, it's the starting point that sets your gross margin that the rest of the business is paid for on. Okay, you've got your pricing from your manufacturers, and it's pretty standard out there. Let's say, meaning you call up Phonak, you call up Resound, you call up Starkey. Here's your price. I'm not saying that they're all the same. I'm just saying that there's standard stuff out there. I was looking at a Phonak invoice the other day. I believe this is right. Their top end units, if you're just kind of a normal buyer, is like $1,600. I think Starkey's 1,200, 1,300 something. They're all in that kind of range if you're in the real deal. Hearing aids, not super cheap stuff from knockoff brands. Anyway, we got to get our cost of goods correct. The single biggest lever of how to get your cost of goods corrected is your pricing structure and your pricing compliance. I say that because it's one thing to set your prices at whatever you set them at. What you actually sell them for is what actually matters. Meaning, you might have a retail price that says $8,000, but if you give a $2,000 discount every time, your real price is $6,000. You know what I mean? So we got this COGS modeler down here, and we need to get our COGS to what? That's right, 27%. So when you get it to 27%, we got a 10% move to go. But we're going to do it as if it's one transaction. We're going to use, right now in this model, we're going to use one transaction as the model. Let's say that we've got a cost of our hearing aids. We're going to get 2 hearing aids, and it's $2,500. We're going to do a top end unit cost. Now, what's our retail price? And let's just plug something in. I've seen a bunch of people who they're afraid to hit that 6 number, and so they'll have like $59.90. What's the cost of goods on that? 42%. That already hopefully is setting off some light bulbs, or kind of some gut check aha moments of seeing how your pricing structure is just not set up to give you a healthy cost of goods, and therefore you're just no way you're going to get to a 20% operating income. Okay, so let's try this. Let's try $69.90. Still 36%. $79.90. Getting warmer. So I just went up 1,000 every time. This price, by the way, is very close to what we have as our top retail price. There's another category that helps you out on cost of goods, though, because you might not get to the 27% just on your treatment price. By the way, your margins as a percentage are often lower on like a mid-tier or an entry-level tier. Let's say that the entry-level tier, the total cost is $1,800, and you sell them. See, the mid tiers have a lower percentage, but the margin dollars are not as much. So dollars pay bills, not percentages. Nevertheless, let's keep going on the other revenue here. Okay, other revenue, again, to keep things simple for today's purpose, we're going to talk about selling service plans that have no cost of goods. So I'm going to put no cost of goods in here. If you're selling accessories that have cost of goods, that needs to be the same sort of ratio as your hearing aids that have cost of goods. Okay, we're looking to get this number down here. We're already at 28%. But let's pretend that no way, Jose, we're not gonna sell them at $89.90. Not gonna do it. So we're really working from 31%. What kind of service plan revenue as a ratio of total revenue do we need it to be in order to get our percentage down? Let's try basically 10%. 10% won't quite do it. Let's go to 15%. So I'm going to stop there on this one because we've hit it. We've got 27% in our cost of goods total by having 15% of our revenue be other revenue, be non-treatment. So again, if you're designing your business, you want to work it out where the hearing aid transactions are a healthy starting point, and then you have good strategies in your business to have renewal plans, service plans, a la carte payments from patients for their visits, so that you're receiving about 15% other revenue, and that will get your cost of goods into a healthy position. That's it on scenario 2. Any questions, Steve?
No, but no questions, but I am going to jump in and remind everybody it's real easy to change these numbers and these categories, but I want everybody to understand here's some things that will help you with your cost of goods sold. The first is taking the different levels of hearing aids that the manufacturers are talking about, whether it be a 400, 600, 800, 1200, gold, platinum, whatever they say, remove the manufacturer and their models out of the sales process. That's what I meant earlier when I said there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about. You need to understand we have materials, we have resources to walk through every aspect of this, whether it be a sales protocol, whether it be an early pricing discussion. If you want to raise your prices, I will tell you that there has yet to be an office that I've gone into where we have said you need to raise your prices by $1,000 or $2,000. There's yet to be an office that really wouldn't handle that price increase if you're putting all of these other things in place. If you just go do business the way you've always done it, you're perfectly designed to get these results. But if what you want to do is say, okay, this is a math problem, I need to get to 20% profitability. Everything that Kate is saying, we have a process, we have documentation, and we realize that this might be a 6-month process to get you there. You might have people that won't work for less money, and it might be we need to go find some people that believe in our purpose so that we can turn over. And we've had to go through that process before. I just want to remind everybody that it's not as easy as just plugging something into a column. You plug something into a column to see where you want improvement. And I'm telling you that I believe that Acuity is a heck of a partner to help you march forward towards that improvement.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. Just, again, this is a short interaction with the folks that are on here, but if we could spend a day with you, I could tell you stories of just the gut-wrenching loss of sleep, make you sick kind of scenarios that we've had to deal with to ultimately get to a healthy spot, whether that's in our own businesses or coming alongside other businesses. And so, yeah, it's not necessarily easy. It's quick and looks easy, and I'm talking like it's easy on this webinar, but it's not. And so we're there with you, but it is doable. It does take a relentless pursuit and buy-in to what the goal is, and then you go make it happen. You put a strategy together. What you don't do is sit back, justify it, and perpetually let it absolutely eat you up. I'm going to go to the next scenario. Scenario 3, high revenue, high marketing. We got our cost of goods in line, personnel's good, G&A is good, but our marketing is at 20%. What in the world? And again, we're down here in this 11.9% net operating income. That's not good enough. If your marketing percent is 20.6, you are wasting money somewhere. At least when it's personnel, you're giving it to someone, a teammate that gets to support their family. Cost of goods, if it's high, your patients are getting a nice discount. But marketing, you're literally wasting it somewhere. Something's bleeding out. You could cut it and your revenue won't change at all. So I wrote these questions down here. What's the budget? The reason I wrote that question is so often is the case that marketing efforts are just being kind of winged. Spend it and hope, see what happens. Hope and pray. Spend and spray and pray. See what we get from it. So our marketing effort and approach is so budget oriented. I don't even know what the ads are, but I know what the budgets are, and I know the general plan and our demographic counts and our zip codes and things like that. So starting with a budget, and if you want to spend at a maximum, say 12% or 11%, then that's what you do. And you don't go do anything that's spending more than what fits the budget of the office. If you have an office that's been in operation for a period of time, then that gives you a baseline of what the revenue is that you can go base the budget off of. There's other factors too, like conversion rates, close rates, things of that nature, as well as the response rates of particular media. If it's lead acquisition or database mailing, you can often see where you could spend more dollars, but it's likely to get you more revenue, and therefore it's a good return on investment. Got to start with a budget. Whenever we approach a business that has high marketing costs, we're going to go look at the ROAS of the various media types. What sort of return are we getting? You're spending this, what kind of calls are you getting? What kind of appointments are you getting? What kind of actual revenue? So much of today's world of marketing is there's a whole lot of jibber jabber on online and social media and all this stuff. My encouragement would be do what works, not what's hot topics on people posting on social media. Do what works. If direct mail works, do it. If Facebook works, do it. If Google Ads works, do it. Find the point of diminishing return and stop there. Keep it within the budget. Just because you get a certain return, if you double it, doesn't necessarily mean that you double the result, and you'll end up wasting money. If you don't look at it regularly, it'll just be bleeding out without even realizing it. Looking at your zip codes and deciding what zip codes are optimal, cut the ones that aren't. Are you doing open houses? Having open house reps, something's got to give. If you're paying an open house rep to come generate revenue, you're just absolutely killing your margins And you might determine what kind of revenue could you do if you didn't have open house reps, or when you have open house reps, you got to have a new pricing model, or you got to split the pay or deduct the pay of your clinician, for example, to help balance it out. And then database remarketing. I could have put this question first. And if I'd have put this one first, the reason I say that is because, again, we're so enamored with lead acquisition. But working your database, if you have a mature clinic, you should be getting half or more of your revenue from your database. And the return on that is extraordinarily better than going chasing people that come in and off of a web form or off of a direct mail piece. So having a balanced diet that all starts from setting a budget and being strict to the budget. It's the same principles as if you want to lose weight, you have to count your calories and you cannot bust it. It's just science and math. I'm going to go ahead on to our fourth scenario. This is a trick scenario. This is the first one where the revenue is not 800,000. I purposely put all of the revenues at 800,000 in those previous scenarios, because often when we're having discussions like this, one of the points of, the cycle of grief, one of them is denial and bargaining. In the bargaining stage, we're trying to justify, well, we just need to raise the revenue. And so I was trying to make the kind of a secret point there that I'm exposing now, that revenue doesn't fix all problems. It helps for sure, but it doesn't fix all of the problems. So here's a average clinic in the United States, somewhere around, I think it's 480,000 or something like that. I last read is the average full-time revenue of a 5-day-a-week clinic. So we're rounding up to 500, calling it an average clinic, and we can't increase the revenue. Where's the opportunity? And the punchline is the opportunity is in every one of the categories. This is a very typical looking P&L. We've got 9% net operating income, but look, we're just a couple of points off in marketing, a couple in personnel, a couple in cost of goods, a couple in G&A. And a P&L will stare at someone like this and will think, well, 28, that's about 27, or 14, that's almost 11, or 19, that's almost 17. No, it's not. 19 is 2.6% from 17. 14 is 3.4% from, and you can just keep going. And you have to have the insistence and the courage to go move the levers to improve all of the cost categories, and moving them, every one of them in the various cost categories will end up with a much, 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 much different result. Steve, I'm going to jump over and show you guys this. Take a look. This is our retail clinics. This is our actual P&L out of QuickBooks. It's condensed for easy viewing. Our revenue in the first half of the year was 3.9 million. Our cost of goods is $1 million, 27% exactly it turned out to be. Our G&A expense, 637,000, 16%. Advertising and marketing, 7%. We're beating that 11. And then payroll and contract are 1.1 million at 29%. That's above the 25 that I was saying in the perfect P&L. But our net operating income is 21%, 815,000. We give you a little bit of context here that I hope is encouraging to you. One is, again, open book, sharing our actual P&L and showing you that we're not making stuff up. This is the real deal on how we operate. Also, our clinics that we own, they pay the acuity services side just like any other customer. Like if you said, hey, I want to use your marketing and use your bookkeeping and use your HR services, we charge the same fees to the clinics that we own. And so they actually pay the most. They pay for all of them. They don't get to opt out of any of them. They can't just a la carte it. They pay the most. That's why this contractor expense is so high because it's got a bunch of acuity fees in there. They actually need to be moved to G&A. So our G&A would bump up a little bit, and this would go down a little bit. There's another thing in the contractor expenses, because we're at 21%, which is good. But I've made two decisions this year that have hurt the P&L actually. The two decisions are, one, to build out a new clinic. We're building out a new clinic in one of our locations. It's going to be huge. The build out is going to cost us something like $500,000. And so there's a couple $100,000 that's already been spent on that build out that's in there, as well as architect fees and lawyer fees and whatever. And then also we hired two people that are not producing. They're in a training sort of period, and that's got us at about a $60,000 cost that's in this personnel cost that's in here that is not part of the normal sort of operation, and we're still at 21%. So I'm pretty proud of that, and it allows us to again go thrive. We're ready to open new clinics or grow. Our business has doubled in the past 5 years, and we haven't taken any loans. We do it all on our own cash flow. So I believe that I'm proud of our story of living into the have margin and be fruitful in your mission. We're not taking money home and buying yachts with it. We're reinvesting in the business and stewarding the business and stewarding the team and stewarding our communities. And I'm just really proud of it. And again, just wanted to show that we're practicing what we preach. I'll stop there, Steve. Well, no, look, I've got two things I want to share that might be kind of action items for anyone on the call. Two things. One, get your P&Ls regularly. If you're not looking at them you asked this question earlier, Steve, and I wanted to answer it right here.
Sure.
You got to get your P&Ls regularly. Even if they're not perfect, just print the thing out. And by looking at them every month, you'll start to get better and hone it and edit and get them where they need to be. Even I realized I've got some edits I need to make to move things into other categories that haven't been moved yet. Doesn't make our profit any different. It just helps clean up as we move forward, so you can look at it faster and know what you're looking at comparatively. The other thing is to share the P&Ls with your team, telling the story of the margin and mission principle. Our teammates, everyone in our clinics and our business can see the P&L, and they know if we're doing a good job contributing and growing and having that margin so that we can keep the mission going. And it makes them more proud, I think. It makes them feel more included because we're more transparent about it. We're able to show them where we take the money and invest in the clinics. We buy the best equipment and we update our clinics, paint and carpet and things like that. So they like it. And it doesn't, people aren't quitting or because we show them their P&L and they think that we're putting $815,000 in our pocket. That is not the case. That is not the case. I'm not the lowest paid person on the payroll, but not the most. And the point is, we're not taking the money out. We're reinvesting into the mission. So
I'll
stop there, Steve.
That's something that I've heard Bill Austin say maybe 5,000 times. You cannot save your way to success. That's one of his favorite lines. And he's absolutely right. You can't save your way to success, but you've got to generate revenue so that you can spend your way to success. I want to know from Sarah, were there any questions?
Hey, Steve. No, there aren't any questions in the chat.
Okay. I want to, first of all, thank you, Cade. I just love hearing you speak about this. Your passion is obvious. Your expertise is obvious. I love this because I'm really kind of a black and white person. This is math, and there are all kinds of ways that we can make ourselves feel better about our business's performance. you know, and as you can all imagine, knowing my history, I've heard all of it. Um, but it doesn't matter where you are in the country. We've got people in the Rust Belt that we just went through and exited TPAs out of their business model. It was 30% of their business, and now it's 0%. And they're thriving and having fun and being more profitable than ever. We are not telling you to go get rid of third parties. What I am saying is, you know, in their case, it was a math problem. Where do we want to invest our resources? You got to start with a source of truth, and math is a really good source of truth. I would offer to everybody that's on this call, if you want to take a step and learn more, Cade and I are sending out this invitation. We'll sign whatever you want us to sign if you want an NDA or whatever. But if you want to share your P&L with us, we'll spend a couple hours. We won't charge you a nickel, and 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 we'll give you some high level perspectives and start your gears grinding. Um, because we're passionate about it. And I do think that should you decide to make a choice to move forward and make some changes and start developing a scalable, profitable business, we are a really good partner to help along the way. And I'll reiterate what Kate said before. We expect for you to be 20% profitable after you've paid us whatever fees you pay us. And I'll tell you that our fees are, I hate saying this, I don't like what it says about us. I'll just say it because it's scalable and we thought about it. Our fees are lower than really our goal is to be a standard where we have low enough fees that we can operate our business at a 20% level as well. But you need to be able to pay us, pay yourselves, pay your employees, and still have 20% profitability. We're not eating into that. I want to again just thank all of you for your time. Kay, do you have anything to add before we sign off?
No, sir. Thanks for everybody that attended and that might watch this later. It's fun to
Yeah.
share.
And Sarah, thank you behind the scenes, setting all this up, making the slides. You're awesome as always. I'll invite everybody. There's my phone number. There is my email address, and there's our website. Call us. We'd really love to talk to you. Take care. Thanks for coming.